Hello, welcome to another screencast. This time I'll step you through the basics of making a relatively simple bar graph. I have here some data that has been entered into an Excel sheet already, and I want to be comparing it. This is Finch data from the grants research on the Galapagos island of Daphne Major. So let's say that I want to, so these are all birds over here, individual bird species over here, or individual birds, sorry, of the same species in that population. And the last year of their known existence is labeled here, so 1977. So we see that we have a lot of birds here that their last year of existence was 1977. Then everything else down here from this cell on down, those birds survived past that drought of 1977. So let's say that I want to compare the weight of the birds that did not survive the drought, and then compare that with the weight of the birds that did survive that drought. So I want to make a bar graph to show this comparison. So this is a little wieldy to have all these numbers on this one page and to also make the graph on there. So what I'm going to do is I want to take the weight, right, and this last year here. So I'm going to select all of these data here by left clicking and holding and just selecting them all. Then I'm going to right click. I'm going to copy all that. I'm going to come over onto another tab down here onto another worksheet, and I'm just going to select this cell and then insert those copied cells, shift them to the right or down, doesn't matter. So now I'm able to know that I have survivors and non-survivor data on here. So the non-survivors, let's figure out what the mass of the the weight of the non-survivors was. So I want to know, I want to be able to compare here non-survivor, right, versus survivor. Right, help if I learn how to type. So the non-survivor versus the survivor. Now, I don't want all these individual things here. I want to know what the mean is. Right? I want to be able to compare the averages of those two. So in this box right here, I'd like to have the average weight of all the non-survivors. So to do that, I'm going to tell Excel, like in this box here, I want you to calculate the average of all the non-survivors. So I can do that in a couple ways. The easiest way to do it is to come up here to this auto sum, right, and not click on auto sum because that's going to add things. But I want you to left click and then select average. Now the default is to say, like, all right, average all this stuff in these cells right here, A2 through D2. That's not what I want. So I want Excel to average all of these weights right here. So I'm clicking, left clicking and holding and dragging and moving this just to the ones that are that did not survive in 1977. So now this is going to average B2 through B51. The other alternative other than coming up here would be to actually type this into the box, equals average, open parentheses, B2 colon B51 close parentheses, right, and then return. Right? So this is the average weight of those birds that did not survive the drought of 1977. What about the survivors? Well, I want to tell Excel here to do that, so let's do it the long way, right? So I would just type in equals and then average, open parentheses, and I can now, no, I don't want C15. Oops, this is a little bit harder. So I'd have to, sorry, when I do it this way, I have to know what those cells are ahead of time. So this would be B52 through B101. See, this is a little more cumbersome this way. Average, I said B52 through B101, close parentheses. Yes, it told me I used a lowercase b there. So this is the average of B52 through B101. All right. Now I want to make a bar graph that compares these two points right here. So I would select all of this, come up here to insert, and I want to insert a column graph here or a bar graph that goes up and down. So I could just, the easiest one is right here. And then bam, there I go. This is my graph, my bar graph that's going to compare non-survivors to survivors. Right? But notice that I don't have any axes labeled over here, which is what I'd like to have. So when I have this, if I come up here And notice also too, now that I've selected onto the table here, that this chart tools come up and I can change things about the graph there. Excel calls it a chart, it's really a graph. It's kind of annoying to me, but anyway. So this, I can change this up here, these chart layouts, right? These are kind of default setting ones, so I'm just going to click around until I find one that's giving me an option to label the axis here and to label the axis there. There I have one. I don't know what's going on with that. If I drop down the menu, there's others I can choose. And this one looks like the one I want because I can type a title, I can have this, label, I can label it there. So I'm going to do this, and now the rest of this is just filling and making it look pretty. So I don't need this and I don't like it, so I'm just going to left click and then get rid of it. I don't want these horizontal lines here, so I'll select those, click on it, delete it. I do want to label this, so I can left click once and then left click again to get me to in there, and I'll just key in. So this was the weight of the bird, and that weight was in grams. Don't really need this because I have non-survivor and survivors, right? And then the title is descriptive. So this is average weight of birds surviving and not surviving drought of 1977. So there's my bar graph, right? And I can compare those two visually there. Now, there are some advanced things you can do to sort of change the scaling over here if you'd like. I can deal with that on an individual basis, or in a more detailed one in another screencast. But so what do you do with this? Well, you can select it, and if you come up here to File, Print, right there, this is what it's going to print. It's going to print it on a big sheet of paper like that. You could also go back to Home. You could also right-click on this, copy it, come down here to open up a Word document, a new one here, and I could right-click and then paste it, and then now it's in a Word document, and I can resize that, etc. And just so if you're writing up a formal lab report or something, that's the way to get that into the Word document. Okay, let me go back to Excel here a second. So there we go. There might be another way. Obviously, there probably is another way to do this a little bit more efficiently, but for me, this is kind of the way that works for me. Feel free to play around with this and find the most efficient way for you. And again, like in Excel, like with other things, there's generally more than one way to do something. But this is one way to do it if you haven't done it before, and I encourage you to use it, play around with it, practice using Excel. That's the only way really that you're going to get better at it and more proficient. Okay? Thanks for listening. If you've got questions or confusions, don't hesitate to ask in class. See you later.